Oregon is working toward a goal of 500 new memberships. If you're not already a member, we'd ask that you consider becoming one of those 500 people that we're looking for from the state of Oregon to donate $5 or more a month. And we're going to put a link in the chat if you'd like to be one of those 500. So on tonight's call, we're going to be focusing on efforts in our state to move us closer to racial justice, including Measure 110, police accountability, and verdicts by non-unanimous juries. Welcome to the Oregon State Our Revolution monthly call. For those of you who are just joining us, we are asking people to introduce yourselves with your name and where you're from in the chat. My name is Will, and I'm from Portland. We are also in the midst of our membership drive, and I'm going to post in the chat a link to our membership drive link. We're shooting for a goal of 500 monthly members. That means that you're donating $5 or more per month to help support expanded efforts, both in Portland and in the United States as a whole. If you have questions about becoming a member or anything else, feel free to hit *3 if you're calling in, and that will connect you with an operator if you can't see the chat, if you're just on the phones, and then you can ask them questions. If you're just joining us, welcome to the Our Revolution Oregon State Call for March. We're going to be focusing on racial justice this month. And if you're just joining us, please put your name and where you're from in the chat and introduce yourself to everybody. Specifically for racial justice, we're going to be focusing on Measure 110, police accountability, and verdicts by non-unanimous juries. And as you can see, we've got a lovely graphic there with some of our speakers this evening. We're going to try and take as many questions for our speakers as we have time for, but we do have a lot of comments. There are a lot of content that we're trying to get through, so we're going to do as much as we can. Welcome to Sarah Lyles, Ricky Filtzlaff, and Miss Ariel Knox, who've just joined the call, and Robin, who just joined the call. Welcome. If you could type your name and your location in the chat, we'd love to get to know you and reach out to you. My name is Will Darden. I'm from Portland, and I'm just welcoming everybody to our Oregon State Call for the month of March. Looks like Richard just joined from Tigard. Richard, go ahead and put your information in the chat if you could, please. And Beverly, welcome to the chat. Welcome to the meeting as well. This is our Oregon monthly meeting for the month of March. We're going to be focusing on racial justice. And for those of you who haven't heard, we are doing a membership drive right now nationally. And our membership drive is focused on getting at least 500 members in the state of Oregon. And so we're asking everybody if they would consider becoming a member. Now that means that you donate at least $5 per month on an ongoing basis to Our Revolution. You'll notice if you're in the Zoom call, I've just posted the link to that in our chat. If you're calling in, you can hit *3, and we have operators who can answer questions for you and help you understand what's involved with that. But if you're willing to be one of those 500 people, it will help us build the revolution here in Oregon, both in the cities and in rural communities, because we need that in Oregon. We need that support, and we need it nationally. That's what this call is about tonight, is making sure that we can press for progressive change, specifically with regard to racial justice. But we want to be able to press for progressive change throughout the US and throughout Oregon, not just in the cities, not just in Portland. We want to press for it everywhere. And that means we need to have help to do that. And that takes money. If you're willing to become one of those 500 people who donates $5 a month, please be sure to click on that link and donate, or press *3 to talk to an operator. We're going to launch into our call now. And so I'm going to turn the rest of the time over to Emma Darden, who is our Oregon State Chapter leader. But again, if you're just driving, make sure you put your name and where you're from in the chat. And I hope you enjoyed tonight's meeting. Thanks very much.
Hi, my name's Emma Darden. I am the state coordinator for Our Revolution Oregon. There are so many amazing things going on in the Our Revolution world right now, from supporting Senator Merkley's For the People Act, which would dramatically change and restore the rights of the people with regard to voting and democracy reforms. We're supporting workers in Alabama and across the country as they begin to form unions in Amazon facilities, including right here in Oregon, where we have several large facilities. To helping out Our Revolution Ohio as they lead the volunteer efforts to get Nina Turner elected to Congress, which is something that all Oregonians can participate in as well. This call was originally scheduled for February, but we had to cancel due to the storms and power outages. It was a crazy few days for a lot of us. At our house, we navigated cooking on a camp stove and keeping our 3 kids in several layers of clothing, but we all came through it and we're here now. And I'm really thrilled that our speakers were willing to come to join with us again as we talk about something that we need to talk about again and again and again, and that is fundamentally changing the dynamics of our state with anti-racist policies. But first, I want to turn it over to Supreet from ORHQ.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Supreet Kaur, and I'm the West Coast Regional Organizing Coordinator with Our Revolution National. I'm excited to be here with you, but before we dive into national updates and talk about the call, I want to take a moment to talk about the shooting in Atlanta. To my Asian American friends and comrades on the call, know that we are with you. And the only way out of this is it's not more police presence. It's not anti-Blackness. It is solidarity with Black Americans, Latinos, Native Americans, and our Jewish allies across the country who are also trying to dismantle white supremacy. But we love and solidarity to you all, and we'll continue at Our Revolution fighting to dismantle white supremacy. 2021 may not be a major election year, but organizing never stops. To achieve transformational change that we all want to see, there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. So this year, we can make real progress on our progressive agenda. It's only March, and our members have already won major victories in all 4 parts of our four-point organizing plan. And we cannot take our eyes off the ball or slow down. We need to keep organizing. We need to keep up the pressure, both inside and outside, in order to win. So let's start tonight with updates on how our movement is fighting to advance progressive policies. If we can move the slides forward as well, let's talk about the Proact. Let's start tonight with updates on the Proact. Last week at the US Capitol, Our Revolution members held a nationally live-streamed press conference to call on Congress to pass the Proact. It is a landmark pro-labor bill that would roll back decades of anti-union legislation. The House passed the bill, and the Senate is also going to get the job done with our help. There's no better example of why we must protect the right to organize than Amazon's ruthless union busting campaign in Alabama. Amazon has reportedly is paying $10,000 a day to consultants to violate the right of their workers to unionize. Last weekend, Our Revolution Ohio rallied with Senator Nina Turner, our favorite state senator, at the Amazon-owned Whole Foods building in University Heights in Ohio to demand a stop to the illegal union busting. And this week, Bernie will bring the battle against Amazon's union busting to Washington. Today, he held a hearing in the Budget Committee, and an Amazon worker had agreed to testify, but Jeff Bezos has rebuffed Bernie's offer to show up. I hope Bernie puts a cutout of him. Just to remind everybody, he is willing to violate his workers' rights, but not be answerable to everyday Americans. While he becomes $78 billion richer during the pandemic, families across the country are struggling to survive. So why is he spending a whole lot of money to stop workers from organizing a union at an Amazon warehouse in Alabama? That's what Bernie had to say about this. And that is unacceptable. Not only did Bezos get rich as a pandemic profiteer, he's also getting rich from federal government contracts. Our money should not be enriching companies that bust unions. And that is why we are calling on President Joe Biden to fix this injustice. And you can join us by signing the petition that we are putting in the chat right now. Sign that petition and let us know that you stand with workers, and we'll let you know about organizing opportunities near you. If you sign this form, we'll know that you stand with workers, and we can tell you how you can get involved in this fight. Now we talk about the fight for 15. Talking about just want to make sure that the slides match what we're talking about as well. Let's talk about fight for 15. As we continue to fight for union rights, we are also doubling down on the fight for 15. This week, Our Revolution Executive Director Joseph told NBC News that fight for 15 is far from finished. Democrats campaigned on it. Low-income workers, low-wage workers, and young people showed up in record number to support it, to vote for Joe, knowing that he would support $15 minimum wage, and now the Democrats must follow through. Given the popularity of $15, Joseph said that it would be political suicide for Democrats to settle for anything less. This is why Our Revolution is organizing to demand Congress to raise the wage in the second budget bill that will be taken up later this year. So the fight does not stop. We have to keep pushing. And we are also calling on President Biden to issue an executive order to withhold federal contracts from corporations who refuse to pay a living wage. And last but not the least, on progressive issues, today, Representative Jayapal from my home state of Washington reintroduced her Medicare for All bill in the House with 110 co-sponsors, including 14 committee chairs, reigniting the national fight for healthcare. This bill establishes a 2-year timeline for the implementation of universal single-payer healthcare, and it prohibits discrimination in care based on race, color, national origin, age, disability, marital status, citizenship, pre-existing conditions, or gender and gender identity. Our Revolution will continue prioritizing organizing for Medicare for All, and it'll organize to put pressure on our elected officials to provide healthcare to all. If you want to help with this and all the work that we'll be doing throughout the year, I'll give you an opportunity to get involved after we talk about electing progressive champions. In addition to fighting for progressive policies, we are also doing work to elect progressive champions to represent our movement. This week, we have a chance to send another progressive to Congress. Our Revolution is phone banking to help Karen Carter Peterson win her March 20th special election, which is only in 3 days, to fill Louisiana's open congressional seat. Volunteer today at the link that we are posting in the chat. If you are on the call, you can press *3 to get these links as well, but I'll post it again in the chat. Sign up to volunteer. Let's make sure that we have, at least half as many AOCs and Jamal Bowmans fighting in Congress for $15 Medicare for all, and for all the issues that impact working families and Black and Brown communities in our country. In addition to our electoral work, we are also building a progressive party. Last week, Our Revolution scored a major victory when DCCC officially canceled its blacklist policy of punishing political consultants who work with primary challengers. Politico called it a major victory for progressives, and just the latest examples of the left prevailing over their moderate colleagues in the House. Now, let's be clear, none of this would have happened had it not been for the last 4 years, organizations like Our Revolution and our members pushing members of Congress to the left, organizing in at their offices and their communities, making calls, showing up in record numbers at elections. So the only way we can win all this and continue building our movement is by ensuring that we have organizers across the country. Now, as Bill mentioned, we need 500 movement builders in Oregon to hire a full-time state organizer. You can become or a movement builder by just donating $5 a month. Most people donate $10, but you can donate more or less. And you can do this by going to ourrev.us, ourrev.us/ORMEM. The link will also be in chat. And in case you're on the phones, press *3 to get to the operator for this link. But we need 500 movement builders so we can pay somebody full-time to organize in Oregon around all the things that we talked about and all the wonderful things that Emma is going to talk about next. And thank you, Mark S. on the phones for becoming our newest member in Oregon. Yay! And if you want to become a member, all you have to do is go to ourrev.us/ORMEM. And the link is also in the chat. If you become a member, let us know in chat so we can give you a shout out. And with that, I'll pass it back to you, Emma. Take it away.
Thanks. And that ORMEM in the link stands for Oregon. So by signing up through that link, you are contributing directly to the Oregon movement as well. Tonight, we're going to delve into efforts being made in our state to begin to turn the tide against the racist history of Oregon. Many of you know that when we became a state, we didn't become a slavery state or a no slavery state. We just became a no Black state. We have a reprehensive history, and tonight we'll be joined by guests who are working on efforts to address that. Getting right to the, sorry, my children are going crazy in the background. Getting right to the heart of how the system has actively oppressed the BIPOC citizens of our state. Our first guests are Toni Naranjo-Riveres and Byrd. Both work for Unite Oregon, which we have the pleasure to work with often, and which was one of the organizations leading the charge on Measure 110, which decriminalized low-level drug offenses and also mandated the expansion of mental health treatment in Oregon. Measure 110 was something that I was immediately attracted to, first off, because it addressed the horribly rampant addiction in our state, which has only gotten worse through the pandemic. But as I started researching Measure 110, I realized that it was about so much more than just addiction. It's about really turning the tide for changing who becomes incarcerated in our state. So Toni and Bobby, I want to just turn the stage over to you. Tell us what's going on with 110, how we can get it funded rather than, as the governor said, just moving it off for another year, and really make these incredibly important changes that need to be made.
Okay, so Toni, we don't have the slides up, and I can do without the slides myself. We can bring the slides later. So I'm just going to start here. Hello, everyone. Happy to be here. My name is Bobby Byrd. I use he and him pronouns. I am a community organizer with Unite Oregon. I'm here because I have a stake in the implementation of our new law, which is a bill SB 755, previously Measure 110. I've also been encouraged by the increased support of the Black Lives Matter movement. Okay, so I'm just gonna go into my story like this, guys. Over 27 years ago, I was arrested for possession of a small amount of drugs. Unfortunately, our racist drug laws and over-policing has severely hindered my life as a Black man. Although I thank God that I didn't lose my life like most Black people, like many Black people have, like Breonna Taylor and George Floyd. I did realize that every police encounter for Black people possessed a threat. This may be hard for most people to understand unless you've lived it or you've walked in the shoes of someone who has, like myself. But after talking to some of my white friends, I had realized that I had been pulled over more times in 1 month than any of them had been pulled over their whole entire lifetime. And every day I had to fix my mind just to live with the fear of leaving my home, just to go to the store, or the gas station, or a doctor's appointment, I'm gonna still on for a second because I want to ask everybody here on this panel: have any of you ever left your home and gone to the grocery store just to drive, just the grocery store, and see a police car drive by you, and you immediately tense up, you freeze up, and you see this police car look at you and turn around and follow you and pull you over? Have you all felt that?
Yeah, once I was scared for my life, but yes.
Okay, so that's what I was dealing with. Okay, so the thing was, I was scared that I might not return home to my family. I might get thrown in jail, beaten up, or maybe even killed. But even though I've been clean since 1993, that conviction has followed me all my life, hurting my ability to provide for my family, and losing employment opportunities more than 2.5 decades ago. That caused me tremendous pain, and it hurt the innocent lives of my children. But I did dedicate my life to my son and my daughter, and so I decided that I would take myself to another level, and I tried going to PCC to become a drug and alcohol counselor. And I was told that I couldn't get a license for that because of that conviction. I also tried to go to PCC to become a phlebotomist. That's just the person who draws the blood out of your arm when you go to the doctor's office. And I was told I couldn't get a license for that either. But what became even more eye-opening to me was that when I did get what I thought was a great job, the background came up again. I remember working at Intel as a cook on a night shift, and I got a promotion, which allowed me to run my own breakfast kitchen. I was really excited. I thought to myself, I got a job now I can retire from. And next thing I knew, with that promotion came a background check. And the next day I showed up, I was being exited out the building because they wouldn't have me in the Intel building, even as a cook, even as a breakfast cook with that felony. So I also, I was escorted out of the building on that one, but I also had another job that I went through a temp service and got with Wells Fargo. I went to got the job, did all the training, was working with the company for a few months, got a promotion with that one as well. Leader of my floor, leader of my team. But they said they had too many employees and they needed to cut back. So they ran a fingerprint background check, and I was released immediately from that job as well. All these things because of my addiction. That was, and I think the whole time it wasn't treated as an addiction; it was treated as a criminal offense. So instead of them treating me like I had a relapse, which is what I was having, I got arrested. On top of that, I actually talked to the officer and told the officer that I had a problem with the drugs. And no one offered me any type of treatment or gave me any information to seek treatment or counseling or anything like that. Nobody even gave me a pamphlet to say, here, Bobby, look this up. Nothing like that. But I'm going to switch up a little bit now because that's all in the past. But I want to talk about what's been happening to me recently. In the past couple of months here, I have lost a few people, friends and family members, to overdoses. And here in the last couple of weeks, I get calls in the middle of the night, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, from people who have addictions and they need help and they don't know where to go. And they don't have certain insurances. They don't have insurance. They don't have the money. They don't have the means. And I don't feel like we're doing them justice by putting off the funds for implementing the new law. People are still dying. And if we put it off for 6 months, 12 months, whatever they want to do, more people are going to die. This is true. It's a fact. I mean, you look back and say from spring of last year, how much the death rates went up. Excuse me. So I'm here in support of our new law because it's not a measure that we're trying to pass anymore. It's not something that needs to be voted for again. It's already passed. It is law. And now we need to make sure that this is implemented correctly, and we need the funds to implement it correctly. Everybody keeps talking about, well, we need to make sure it's this, make sure it's that. We're going to run into a lot of obstacles, yes. But at the same time, nothing's perfect. And when we hit these obstacles, we need to handle these obstacles accordingly, because we have a lot of intelligent people working on this. And it's hard for me to believe that amongst all these intelligent people, we can't come up with solutions to better the system that we're trying to lay down. And it shouldn't take 2 years. It shouldn't take that at all. I mean, so again, I am very passionate about this because people are dying. And most of all, I don't want to see what happened to me happen to other people. No one should have to go for a drug addiction or a relapse, whatever they're going through, and get arrested and be saddled with a criminal record for the rest of their lives. I mean,
well, and the new law makes it so simple, right? You're pulled over, you have a small amount of drugs, and you have a very simple option. You go and meet with a mental health counselor, and you have the option of getting treatment rather than going into the criminal justice system.
mm-hmm.
And all that needs to be funded is options to mental health treatment.
Yes.
So it's a win-win. We help people with addiction, which we have the soaring rates of addiction because of the pandemic. And we stop this massive pipeline of people going into the prison system. So now we just need everybody in our state meeting with legislators, which Unite is setting up, right? We're setting up meetings with legislators throughout the state. And we need a few constituents in each of those meetings because legislators like meeting with their constituents. So they've said to Unite, if you can get some constituents in a meeting, great, we'll be there.
So I urge everyone here, figure out what district you're in. If you need help with that, you can reach out to myself or either Toni or anybody with Unite. We'll help you figure out what district you're in, and we'll share how you can get involved because we need your support. We want everybody across the whole state of Oregon to come together. At this point right now, this is a pivotal moment in history. We can all be on the right side of history right now. And it's going to take all of us. If you sit back silent, you're not helping. We need everybody to speak up. We need everybody to talk to their legislators, their reps, their senators. We need everybody on board, as many people as we can get. So please let us know what we need to do to help you help us.
And so thank you so much, Bobby, for sharing your experience with us.
Toni, I want to hop in for a second.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Bobby said we need your voice, and which is absolutely true. The thing is that to be in one of the meetings, you don't actually have to come in as an expert. You just have to come in as someone who cares, because the legislators aren't expecting you to have all the answers, and they aren't. That's what Toni and Bobby and Anna, who is not on the call, but it will be in those meetings, are for. They just need to know that constituents care enough to come to the meeting. That's all that you're needed for, is to come and say, I care, and I'm going to be in this meeting to back up what Toni and Bobby are saying.
Yes.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks, Emma, for highlighting that. And we have had quite a few meetings with our legislators this week. This is kind of our big week of action for Measure 110 implementation. And I'm happy to put the other meetings that are coming up tomorrow and Friday in the chat with the district numbers and the times. And, you know, if one of those districts is not yours, you are still welcome to get involved in numerous ways. You can email your legislator personally and write a brief statement just saying, I care about this. We voted for this. Please honor the voices of the voters and move forward with this. And you can also, join us in the next coming months. We'll have other avenues of advocacy throughout the legislative session to really ensure that we get funding and implement these critical life-saving services.
So for those of you on the phone, you can go to uniteoregon.org, UNITE Oregon.org, or you can also go to healthjusticerecovery.org. And both of those have links that will get you to Toni and Bobby.
Yep, absolutely. And I just want to say thanks so much to Our Revolution for having us. I'm just so happy to be a member and just have, a meaningful opportunity to be involved in progressive campaigns with you all, and, get connected to folks like yourselves around the state, and really trying to unify around justice work. So thank you so much for having us here tonight.
Thanks, both of you. I love working with Toni and Bobby and doing this amazing project that has now become law. Our next guest is Darren Golden. Darren was the campaign manager for the Real Police Accountability. Many people know it as Joanne Hardesty's measure in Portland last fall to put in place an independent police review process. And he is now lobbying in support of police accountability bills in the state legislature. Sorry, having an eye issue that makes it hard to read tonight. He and I have been working together to track some of the bills that Our Revolution has sponsored, and we've largely followed the lead of the BIPOC caucus in the bills that they chose that will have the most lasting impact when looking at the bills that we wanted to sponsor. So Darren, what kind of update can you give us now?
Well, I just want to say, hey, thank you for having me on the call this evening. I appreciate it. And thank you to everyone who has shown up. I am working on 4 bills specifically, 3 of them Senate bills and 1 of them a House bill. So I will go over who's sponsoring those bills, where they came from, where they are, where they're headed, and what opposition and how you guys can help. So my landmark bill, the most important bill I'm working on is Senate Bill 621. That's sponsored by Senator Frederick at the request of the city of Portland. This bill allows the independent police oversight board that we passed with the ballot measure back in November to be implemented absent collective bargaining on discipline. So as it stands right now, the city and the Portland Police Association have to have mandatory collective bargaining around disciplinary issues and proceedings. And they see this board as subject to that collective bargaining. We, the city of Portland, the Real Police Accountability PAC, and 82% of Portland voters don't agree with that. So we are passing Senate Bill 621 to ensure that that board can be implemented fully without any hurdles from the union. That bill has had 2 public hearings, and it had a work session on the 16th. It got a do pass recommendation, so that'll be going to the Senate floor for a vote. And as it stands, it seems we have the support and the votes to get that over to the House. The second bill I'm working on is Senate Bill 613. That bill is also sponsored by Senator Frederick. And Senate Bill 613 changes the way in which we approach arbitration for law enforcement specifically. So 613 allows the Department of Public Safety Standards and Training to review all arbitral awards that are given down in misconduct hearings for police officers. So after this arbitral award is given, that association and municipality must notify DPSST of the arbitral award being given, and then DPSST can go in and they can modify and vacate that award if it goes against a public policy which is defined in another ORS, or if the arbitral award interferes with the administration of justice, meaning that that arbitral award ensures that that officer is not held accountable for their actions. That bill at the moment is scheduled for a work session. It's already had its public hearing on the 9th and is scheduled for a work session on April 8th.
So, Darren, when you say that something's scheduled for a work session, that gives people an opportunity to do what?
So public hearing is when people have the opportunity to speak on it. Work session just means that the committee is going to hear that bill, and then that bill is going to be either have amendments recommended for it, or it will be voted on and moved to the Senate floor or the House floor. But public hearing is when people in the community can get engaged with those bills.
Right. One of the things that we're encouraging people to do, though, is also to tell their legislators that they are watching the work session and that they're invested in the fact that that has moved to a work session, which is a huge hurdle if you don't do legislative speak.
Yes, it is. Getting something scheduled for a work session pretty much ensures that your bill is not going to die. All bills have to be scheduled by Friday for a public hearing or work session, or they essentially die this Friday. So if you are working on a bill or you're supporting a bill, call your legislator, say, hey, are you guys scheduling this? They probably won't pick up, but call them anyways.
Leave a message and then email.
Leave a message. Yes, correct. So yes, a work session, there is no public input, but you can email, you can call, you can leave messages. Asking your legislator, or any legislator for that matter, to support said bill. I was at where's that? Senate Bill 421. So Senate Bill 421 is sponsored by Senator Manning, and Senate Bill 421 it expands the database for to capture officer misconduct, terminations, complaints against police officers. Right now, that is under the Department of Public Safety Standards and Training, DPSST, the licensing agency. And Senate Bill 421 says, hey, we need to move that from DPSST to the Department of Justice, and we need to ensure that we are capturing misconduct, terminations of officers, complaints, so that we can actually see what officers are doing what. Because right now, officers will get disciplined for something in one department or bureau, and then they will laterally transfer or apply to a different bureau. And that record's not exactly public knowledge or public can be seen by the public. So this will give the ability. Right now, they're trying to figure out who will be able to see this actual record of misconduct and complaints, but it'll give the ability, at least for law enforcement leadership, to observe which officer did what when they're coming into that new department. So they can say, hey, actually, this officer has 15 complaints against them, and that's why they're transferring. We're not going to take them. And right now, that has had a public hearing, or no, the public hearing is on April 5th, and the work session is scheduled for April 8th. So that you can weigh in on, and that will be in the Senate Judiciary Committee, which is 8 a.m. Every day but Friday. And the fourth bill I am tracking and working on is Senate Bill 2930, or House Bill 2930. So this is a bill that was sponsored by Representative Bynum. And this bill ensures that a new commission is created, actually, to change the way that officers are governed in the state of Oregon. Right now, different associations, unions for officers get to bargain how officers are dealt with in certain situations regarding to discipline, what their rules of professionalism are, their use of force standards, sexual assault, any of their conduct while on duty, drug and alcohol use while on duty. All of that is up to bargaining right now. So this bill looks to create a new commission, the Commission for Statewide Law Enforcement Standards of Conduct and Discipline, and it will adopt a uniform standard for all officers in the state. So professionalism, use of force, conduct, use of alcohol and drugs on duty. All of these things will basically be set for the state level, which means every law enforcement agency within the state has to adhere to these new rules. Also, it creates a new way of picking arbitrators for a police or / municipality dispute of arbitration when it comes to misconduct. So right now, the municipality and the union can go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth endlessly until one of them finally lands on an arbitrator that they're both happy with. This bill in its original form said that, okay, the new commission would pick that arbitrator. The union could strike once, and then the municipality could strike once, and the third pick would be by the arbitrator. But there's actually been some amendments that are proposed, and those amendments ensure that the arbitrator is actually picked at random, and they have to be selected within 90 days of the actual dispute. And so that's actually really, really good because a lot of people go back and forth about arbitrators, and you try to get an unbiased individual. However, obviously, if you're striking to not have a specific arbitrator, you don't want that one because you think they're biased for or against you.
Yeah, and Darren, tell people why arbitrators are so important, because if you get through the arbitration process and the arbitrator makes their recommendations right, and that arbitrator is biased.
Yeah, so arbitrators
everything
are the
we want
final
is done, right?
Yeah, arbitrators are the final deciders. They are not held accountable by anybody. They are basically seen as a pseudo judge when it comes to a union issue or a PECBA issue, if you will. So right now, because arbitrators are not held accountable for their decisions, and because they rule on past decisions, much like how judges rule on past cases, when arbitrators have never held anyone accountable and no officers have been held accountable, they have nothing to look to that says, this is how we hold this officer accountable. It ensures that officers are continually not held accountable, which is why we're trying to pass 613 as well, so that we can have this second look at all of these arbitral awards and ensure that they're not, against what the public policy states. And earlier I said that there was Friday's the last day to get all of the bills scheduled for a work session or public hearing. While that is true for almost all of them, if the bill is going to be assigned to rules or ways and means, that does not apply, or somebody can still bring forward a bill through ways and means or through rules. Those are exempt from the deadline. And those are the 4 bills that I'm working on. Go ahead, Emma.
Oh, sorry. I was responding to something. There's a bunch of text coming through, but there are 2 other bills that we are following as well. One is HB 2164 that has a hearing scheduled, hallelujah, that will cover all undocumented people by the Oregon healthcare system, which is humongous, obviously. And then Representative Salinas's bill that declares racism a public health crisis is now in the Rules Committee, but she wanted me to assure everyone that that is not the place bills go to die, and that it actually still has a really good chance of moving to the floor. But again, none of these bills are out of the woods. They all rely on the support of the legislators that we have. So in the follow-up email that we send out tomorrow, oh no, I think I have an invader. In the email that we send out tomorrow, there'll be these action steps for each of those to do as much as we can. I can't talk to you right now. To do as much as we can to make sure that all of these, and also the other bills that are still have some hope left in them, can get through. And Darren, you're going to stick around with us to talk a little bit more after we meet with Greg Mckelvey, who's going to be on now. So Greg, you have done lots of stuff in this realm, but now you're working on a really amazing new project. So tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been great to hear from my friend Darren, who I talk to every day. So it's always fun to see him in more formal settings, including our text today. Hi, everybody. My name is Gregory Mckelvey. I use he, him pronouns. One of the jobs that I hold is working for a national organization called Zealous. We basically focus on training public defenders to advocate for their clients in ways that are still sensitive to their clients' needs and insensitive to attorney-client privilege, but also in ways that start fixing the problems that they see every day. And I am the chief of campaigns there, and one of the campaigns that we are running happens to be a campaign in Oregon, which is great because it's where I live. Most of my coworkers are on the East Coast. And what we are working on is on non-unanimous juries. And I have a video that I'm going to show that will line it up better than I ever could. But the long and short of it is Oregon and Louisiana were the only two states that allowed for people to be convicted by non-unanimous juries. And that was specifically done for racist ways and anti-Semitic ways to make sure that even if a Black person made it onto a jury, which is rare in Oregon, that they would not be able to acquit somebody, that they would not be able to grant an acquittal. And so we've all seen movies like 12 Angry Men or something like that. And we view juries as where you have to convince the entire 12. If you don't, there's a mistrial. And after a mistrial, the district attorney decides if they want to retry the case or not. In Oregon, they could convict almost anybody they wanted because all they needed was a 10-2 vote. And that would most often silence Black voters. It was a law that was lobbied for in Louisiana and in Oregon by the KKK. It was struck down by the Supreme Court as unconstitutional, specifically because of racism. And the question now is, what do we do for the people who were convicted of those trials of what we call Jim Crow juries? And what we are advocating for is that those people should be given new trials if we have evidence to convict them without a Jim Crow jury, without laws that perpetuate institutional white supremacy, then by all means, the district attorney can choose to retry the case, but people should not be still in prison, which is the campaign. It's stillinprison.org, for convictions that are now deemed unconstitutional. So if we could play this video, and then I'll take like a minute afterwards to talk about it.
And the video is amazing. I was super emotional by the end of it. So join us as we take this look. We there? Looks like we might be having a slight technical difficulty.
Worst case scenario, if I need to share screen to be able to show the video, that is something that I can do as well.
Oh, the slide deck is just refreshing. Okay.
Oh.
Here we go. It's a work in progress.
Whoever that is, it says you need to request access. If you click that request access, I'm sure I can just grant it quickly.
I promise it's worth the wait, folks. The idea that there are still people sitting in prison.
This should only take a second. If somebody just clicks that request access, I'm sure it'll be a very quick email that comes to me to grant access.
The idea that people are sitting in prison simply because they couldn't get a fair trial, which is something that our criminal justice system struggles with anyway, but we had a policy directly put in place to make sure that BIPOC folks, and particularly Black folks, did not have access to fair jurisprudence, which is just one more aspect of our state history that is really, really important. There are, Greg, correct me if I'm wrong while we're putting this on, there are 250 cases that are being examined right now?
There are roughly 250 cases of people that are still in prison. There are roughly 1,000 people who are outside of prison, but who are living still with the burden of their conviction. Again, if there's a problem, if I can share screen, I could probably just show it on my end.
So the idea behind the project is to commute the sentence.
Okay, it says I got a message to go ahead and just do that. Okay, that is what I will do.
Here we go. To commute the sentences of that here. Okay, I'm going to stop talking so we can just watch the video.
Hopefully my notifications are off.
The United States Supreme Court said convicting a person by a non-unanimous jury verdict is unconstitutional. That law was introduced for the sole purpose of preserving white supremacy. I felt happy for my friends and the people that I left in prison. The reason why they're in prison for all those years, our United States Supreme Court has said it was wrong. The state of Oregon has the power to send a message that we would never uphold laws intended to preserve white supremacy. I get emotional when I think about them, because they're still in prison. Angola, when I was one, they booked me for shooting that gun. When we was kids, our nursery rhymed with, we was gonna commit a crime that was gonna send us to Angola, and it rhymed with our age. I was two. I didn't give that much thought about the nursery rhymes until I got to Angola. And then I realized that there was a system that was gonna make that song our reality. I always wanted to get out the environment that I grew up in. So I signed up for Job Corps, and I wound up here in Oregon. And living in that environment with the trees and the trails, it was like a fairy tale. That's when I actually felt free. But then 2 detectives arrested me based upon a warrant issued by the New Orleans authorities accusing me of having committed a murder. I was placed on a unit in the Orleans Parish prison where guys had already been sentenced to death. Some had 99-year sentences, some had life for petty drugs. When I would tell them about my case, that I was innocent, I didn't commit it, and all of them generally told me the same thing, that I was going to be executed. I started asking, well, how could I help myself? And that's when they told me, well, you got to learn the law. I started reading everything that I could get my hands on. I would always look in the newspaper, and if an influential person was arrested, I would cut those articles out and start creating my own law book. And in the process, I just fell in love with law. I fell in love with the power that it gives. And then I started trying to help other people as well. Once I got to Angola, then I applied for the job of being a jailhouse lawyer. And in researching a lot of the innocent cases, I noticed that their verdict was non-unanimous. Every state in the United States, you have to be convicted by a unanimous jury except Louisiana and Oregon. Klansmen introduced laws to make sure that the system could convict anybody they wanted. And if it's a minority on that jury, then that minority juror vote would not count. Had we had a system like everybody else, those people would not have been convicted because you had to have all of the jurors to agree. Once I got released, I knew that I wanted to continue to help the people in prison. So I got employed as a paralegal. So then I went to one of the lawyers that works at the firm where I work at. His name is Ben Cohen. And I said, man, we got to do something about this. And Ben's response was, well, Calvin, if you find the cases, we'll litigate them all the way to the United States Supreme Court. And so I started working with the inmate lawyers for cases where the jury verdict was non-unanimous. Then I would get with Ben and appeal to the United States Supreme Court. We constantly was denied. Every time we got denied, we brought another case. Ben would say, Calvin, if you're not tired, I'm not tired. And my response is, I'm never going to get tired because no law should be on the book to preserve white supremacy. After 23 tries, the court finally said, I think we should look at this case.
Hamilton himself said the right to a unanimous jury. It's so self-evident we don't need to include it.
The rule in question here is rooted in racism, in a desire to diminish the voices of black jurors.
The words jury trial themselves mean unanimous verdict.
The United States Supreme Court ruled in our favor. So from this day on, no more convictions like that. The question becomes, what happened to those convictions before that? Should those people remain in prison based upon this law? There's hundreds of people that's still in prison, and then there are people that's not in prison that still have to say that they have a conviction. The state of Oregon could resolve that on their own. Our Attorney General, she have the power to do the right thing, to say everybody that was convicted based upon a racist law, whether they in prison or out of prison, we dismissing those convictions. It's a sad thing that a person with all that power could say, I'm gonna let those people stay in prison. When I was on the inside, I just wanted to be free. To me, what freedom is, freedom to take a position, a right position, to undo things that I see that just wrong. To me, that is freedom, and I hold on to that. And that's why I'm 57 years old, and it's my first semester at Lewis and Clark Law School. And I just know that once I become a lawyer, that would add to my freedom to be able to stand up and do the right thing for people.
So, Greg, I remember having the exact same question when that verdict came down from the Supreme Court, of what was going to happen to all of these people. And I'm going to give you a chance to explain something super obvious. So Ellen Rosenblum has said, I'm not just going to vacate these and commute these sentences, right?
Yep.
What's the argument that she's using, and why is it so obviously problematic?
Yeah, the argument is that it might overwhelm the courts. But the thing is, she's relying on that argument without ever doing the research to know how many cases there were. So it took Lewis and Clark's legal reform clinic 4 years to identify the cases, to find out that there were about 250 people still in prison. For the people who that did apply to, meaning their case was in direct appeal at the exact time, it's a similar number, under 300, around 250, and that did not overwhelm the courts. Also, we know that Oregon has recently decriminalized drugs. So overwhelming the courts is a bad argument. The other argument that people say is, well, maybe these people are guilty, and if you believe that, then that's fine. Then they should be tried without a racist jury. And what I would say is, how racist is too racist? We would all agree that a lynch mob in the 1920s is a too racist way to convict somebody. But what if that person who was lynched in 1920 actually did sexually assault somebody? Does that make the lynching correct? And I would say, and I think everybody would say, no, they should be convicted through the systems that America has built, and I believe in the institutions that we have that in a not racist way. These are legal lynchings, and regardless of whether the people have done it or not, they deserve a fair trial. So that's the argument, that it would overwhelm the courts, that and that maybe these people might be guilty.
And double jeopardy doesn't apply. So if someone really did do something heinous, we can just try it again, right? Like
Exactly.
A rapist
their
who got
conviction would be
convicted
their
or
conviction
whatever.
would be their conviction would completely be vacated. And what we are seeing is that the other thing is that the race data on this is you are 16 times more likely to be convicted by a non-unanimous jury if you are Black. So the law is working as intended. It was made so that we could convict Black people regardless of there being Black jurors. And yes, those people could still be retried. And there's actually some cases where district attorneys are forced to retry the cases because they did apply. They were in direct appeal at the time of Ramos, and the district attorney in Deschutes County was asked, how do you feel about having to retry this person? And he said, I feel great about it. I think this person is guilty, but I have a high burden and I need to meet that burden. And if I can't meet that burden without a Jim Crow jury, then this person walks. That's how America works. And we have seen in our country that if you're an ex-president or an insurrectionist, that people who commit crimes do get to walk free and never even face a jury that has to be unanimous. So the arguments are bad, and also that it would just be inconvenient. And the thing is, I believe that if this was a political issue that Ellen Rosenblum, the Attorney General, thought was in the minds of a lot of people, that she will do the right thing. And that's what we're working to do right now, is to make sure that it's a political issue that she cannot avoid. And so the call to action is, if you are part of an organization like Our Revolution, but any other organization, to please let me know. We have a coalition now of over 60 groups, including the ACLU, the Human Rights Watch, the Coalition of Communities of Color. So many organizations are now a part of this. The Democratic Party of Oregon Black Caucus, many parts of the Democratic Party of Oregon, the Multnomah County Democrats, the Clackamas County Democrats. This coalition is huge. It's something I've never seen before in Oregon. So if you are part of a group, please let me know. I'll put my email into the chat. I'll also put the information of this campaign into the chat, but please just spread the word. What we're trying to do is make sure that this is a political issue that cannot be avoided, because being in jail right now, especially in COVID, can be a death sentence. Just because of the bad conditions. And also these were legal lynchings, and we all bear responsibility to make sure that these legal lynchings are addressed in a positive, in a legal, constitutional, and non-racist way.
Absolutely. And Our Revolution Oregon has endorsed this. It's going through the endorsement process for Our Revolution National. We will actively be working on this project through our membership. I just want to pose one quick question. We're nearly to time, but I want to pose one quick question to all of our panelists tonight. So many of us have felt compelled to go to the streets, to be a part of what's going on in these moments in the last year, 2 years, 5 years. But we want to take this sentiment and move it into lasting change. What is your, if you could see one thing happen right now that would have the greatest impact, what would that be for you? Greg, Darren,
I would say
Bobby.
people being involved. The answer to everything. I've been asked this question in 2016 when we were protesting Trump, in 2014 when we were protesting Black Lives Matter in the streets before. The root cause of everything is we need voices, we need support, we need bodies. Not everybody can be the person with the megaphone. Not everybody can be the person on the panel, but everybody can show up. And so I would say that's the root of everything: showing up, signing up, and calling your legislators, like, do the minimum. Right? Like, even, I know we can't do everything. Not everybody can go to the streets, but do the minimum. Even if that's a Facebook post, like, just we all are responsible for all the atrocities that we've talked about today. We are all here. We all bear responsibility of it. So don't act like it's somebody else's problem, because until you fix it, as somebody that is an Oregon voter, as somebody that lives in Oregon, as somebody who cares, this is on you. It's on me. And I bear this responsibility. It makes it hard to sleep at night because for the measures that Darren is working on, for the things we heard from Unite Oregon, this is on me. That's us. When they say Oregon has messed this up, that means you. That means us. So get involved. Do the minimum at least. Show up.
Like that.
Amen.
I got so drawn into Greg's response, I don't remember the question.
If you could see one thing happen in this moment or one thing that people can do to actually move this movement forward, what would it be?
If they're not already educating themselves, just really educate yourself on the political process. There is such a deficit of political engagement in Oregon and nationally. People, get out the vote. GOTV is the biggest thing, in regards to politics, but that's the smallest part. Sure, getting that leader elected, getting that individual elected is huge, but really, really read into how the Oregon legislature works. Read into what it means when an LC becomes a bill, gets scheduled for a public hearing, goes to a work session, gets amended, goes back to work session, goes to the floor, switch sides, goes through the whole process where it's getting stalled. These are important things that help the community understand where their legislators are not being accountable. It's very easy to say, hey, I'm going to call and email my legislator. Okay, cool. When you call and say, hey, why are you holding up this bill in the rules subcommittee? They're going to be like, because X, Y, or Z, or they're going to ignore you. And then that allows you to call them out. That allows you to get that accountability, to get that transparency. Do that at the state level, do that at the county level, do that in all of the special districts that exist in Portland and in Oregon, do that at city council. Make sure that you really are educating yourself on civic government, because that is, it impacts us more than anything else.
Perfect. And something that our Revolution members voted to start becoming more educated on. So perfect, Darren. Bobby, were you going to say something?
Well, no, I agree with Darren and Gregory as far as educating yourself and also getting involved. I agree with those fully. What I had to say was some kind of like off the board, which has been bought, which I think I mentioned to you in a personal call before, and I never get to mention this very much in front of people. But I look at the systemic racism further from where I figured it, in my opinion, where it really starts. And I look at our a lot of people don't like to hear this, but I say our Constitution. And you look at where Black people were written into the Constitution as a property, not as a people. That's still there to this day. And that's something that we need to address as well. So, I mean, that's just something I just want to throw out there, okay? But I agree with Gregory and Darren. Educate yourselves. We need to implement the education in the school systems as well about the true history, and hopefully we can begin a new era. Amen.
Be sure to become a member tonight by going to ourrev.us/ORMEM and join Our Revolution's National Monday organizing call next Monday, when our special guest will be Maryland Congressman Jamie Raskin, a really amazing progressive champion who served as the lead impeachment manager. You will not want to miss it. So go to the RSVP link that we'll have in our chat, or go to the Facebook page for Our Revolution, where you can find all of those events. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. We are so grateful that you were willing to come and share the things that you're working on. And to all of those who are listening, thank you for showing up and being here as a change maker. We can do this together if we all actually dig in and do the work and fight every day to make a change. You can all RSV for all of our calls on Mobilize, and we're thrilled to have everyone to be part of the Our Revolution universe. Thank you all for being here. Before we sign off, let's do our chant. Everyone unmute yourselves. When we organize, we win. Yay. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.